The Galactic Empire sat high in its throne of stars, made of pride, power, and a long list of victories. At the center of it all was the Varnock Council, a gathering of the most powerful alien races in the known galaxy. In their shining chamber, carved from floating crystal, they discussed one simple matter: what to do about Earth. High Marshal Krell-Zor, the supreme commander of the Varnock military, stood before the council. His voice was cold and sharp, just like the armor that wrapped his tall, scaled body. "Humanity is a minor annoyance," he said, smirking. "They refused tribute again. This is the third cycle in a row. I say we make an example of them." Laughter followed. Glowing alien eyes blinked with amusement. Some buzzed, others rattled their tails in approval. To them, humans were nothing more than weak apes playing civilization. "They barely control one system," said a soft-bodied delegate. "Why do they even matter?" Krell-Zor's eyes narrowed. "Because weakness is a disease. If we allow it to spread, others will resist us too." The vote was swift. Earth was marked for pacification. A fleet would be dispatched in 7 rotations. The council adjourned, already forgetting the matter. But 93 million miles away, on a quiet blue planet, someone had been listening. Commander Elias Ward stood in a dark command room, deep under the surface of Earth. Around him, screens flickered silently. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with purpose. Gray streaked his hair. Scars lined his right hand, reminders of battles lost and lessons burned into memory. "They're coming," he said simply. His team looked at him. No one spoke. Everyone knew this day would come. The Varnock Empire had always seen humans as broken remnants of a once ambitious race. But that belief was exactly what Earth had planned for. "Activate Iron Veil," Elias ordered. With one command, hidden bunkers lit up across the solar system. In orbit above Earth, strange shadows moved. For decades, humans had prepared in silence, underneath the ice of Europa, behind the rings of Saturn, inside hollowed-out asteroids. Earth had been building. Iron Veil was not just a fleet. It was a message. "We are not who you think we are." A few hours later, Elias sat alone in his quarters, watching an old video. It was a grainy recording of Earth cities during the Great Collapse: fire, fear, hunger. His father's voice echoed in the background. "They'll come again, Elias. They always do. Next time we won't run. Next time we fight." He closed the tablet. His jaw tightened. "Next time is now," he whispered. On the Varnock Empire's flagship, Krell-Zor prepared his war orders. His fleet would crush Earth in days, he believed. Just another forgotten rock to add to the Empire's map. But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Earth had never been asleep. It had been watching, waiting, and now it was ready. The Varnock invasion fleet launched from the heart of the Empire. It stretched across the stars, hundreds of warships, carriers, and destroyers, all moving with precision and confidence. Their engines lit up the darkness like a burning trail through space. They were not rushing. They didn't need to. To them this was routine. Another small planet to conquer, another name to erase. High Marshal Krell-Zor stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominion's Wrath, arms crossed behind his back. His officers were relaxed, laughing, sharing bets on how long Earth would last. 3 days at most, one grinned. Krell-Zor smirked. "Generous, I give them one. The humans are primitive. They will panic and surrender." He looked out into the stars. "This will be fast, clean, and final." But in the shadows of the void, Earth moved quietly. Project Iron Veil was now fully active. Across hidden stations and black sites, command signals were flying like lightning. Silent warships emerged from camouflaged asteroid fields. Their hulls absorbed light, making them nearly invisible to scanners. They had no national flags, no painted names, only sleek metal, black armor, and silent AI cores humming within. Elias Ward stood at the helm of the Obsidian Lance, the flagship of the hidden human fleet. His expression was cold and focused. Around him, officers reported in. All squadrons in position. Phase shielding systems at 100%. Enemy fleet is on track. 5 days to Sol orbit. Elias nodded. Let them come. In the meantime, the people of Earth prepared. Cities went into lockdown, not from fear, but strategy. Civilian ships were rerouted. Orbital platforms were darkened to look inactive. News outlets broadcast calm reports, while underneath bunkers were filled and defenses powered up. Only the top command knew the full truth. Earth wasn't afraid. Earth was ready. Stack aboard Dominion's Wrath. One of Krellzor's officers approached, looking confused. High Marshal, we are receiving strange interference near the outer system. Could be a sensor glitch. Krellzor waved it off. Ignore it. Human tech is laughable. They don't have the reach to disturb us. He turned to his crew. Increase speed. I want this done before the next moon cycle. The ships roared forward, confident in their strength. But in the black between Mars and Jupiter, 20 human warships floated silently. The AI aboard the Obsidian Lance spoke in a calm, human-like voice. Enemy fleet on final trajectory. Engaging Shadow Protocol. Commander Elias Ward leaned forward. Let them enter the trap. Behind the Empire's lines, another hidden Earthship sent a quiet signal back home. Final confirmation. Contact expected in 72 hours. From Earth's deep command bunker, a single message was sent in return. Good. Begin the storm. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but the shadows were shifting. The void, once silent, now held the hum of human resolve. The Varnock fleet entered the outer edges of the Sol system without resistance. No patrol ships, no signals, no warnings, just empty space and silence. Krellzor sat in his command chair aboard Dominion's Wrath. Bored. Where are the defenders? He asked, tapping his clawed fingers on the armrest. His second-in-command, a six-eyed officer named Terrell, studied a holomap. Nothing on long-range scans. Earth must be unprepared. Krellzor grinned. Then we end this quickly. Begin orbital descent preparation. Unseen by the invaders, dozens of human warships floated silently in the dark, camouflaged by advanced cloaking fields. Their weapons were locked, their AIs calculating every second. The Empire had walked into a trap. On the bridge of the Obsidian Lance, Commander Elias Ward stood tall, eyes fixed on the tactical display. Around him his officers spoke in calm, clear voices. Enemy fleet within strike range. All systems green. Cloak holding. They haven't seen us. Elias gave a short nod. Begin Phase 1. Without warning, 3 human ships uncloaked and fired. Their weapons were nothing like the Varnock had ever seen. Graviton lances, silent torpedoes and pulse disruptors. 5 Varnock cruisers exploded before they even knew what hit them. Chaos erupted. Ambush. Varnock officers screamed across their channels. Krellzor jumped to his feet. Where are they? What is this? Terrell shouted. Unknown vessels cloaked human tech, but far more advanced than expected. Krellzor's eyes widened. Impossible, but it was real. The Obsidian Lance emerged from the shadows, sleek and deadly. Its AI controlled every system with perfect accuracy. It fired a focused graviton beam at a destroyer, tearing it in half. On board, Elias issued orders with calm precision. Cut their comms, target engines, cripple, don't destroy, not yet. The human fleet moved like ghosts, hitting fast, then vanishing. Send more Varnock ships went dark. Fires spread across the invader formation. The rest scattered in panic. The Empire, so used to winning, was stunned. Back aboard Dominion's Wrath, Krellzor was shouting at his fleet. Regroup, fight back, overwhelm them with numbers. But it was no use. Every time they regrouped, the human ships struck from another direction. They never stayed still. They never missed. Then came the final blow. Uz opened a secure galactic broadcast channel. His face appeared on screens across nearby sectors. Calm, steady, and sharp. This is Commander Elias Ward of Earth. We are not the weaklings you imagined. You brought war to our door. We brought justice to yours. He paused. Withdraw now, or we will finish what you started. Then the broadcast ended. The message was clear. Earth had not only survived the first blow, it had struck back. The Varnock survivors pulled back, shaken and confused. They still had numbers, but now they were afraid. As they realized Earth wasn't sleeping, it had been planning, and now the plan was unfolding. Deep in the shadows of space, the obsidian lance faded again, waiting for the next move. The remains of the Varnock fleet regrouped near Mars. They had lost over a dozen ships and hundreds of warriors. Their pride was damaged. Their fear was growing. But High Marshal Krell Zor was not ready to retreat. He slammed his fist against the command console. "Prepare all ships. Full attack formation. I want Mars taken, now." The Varnock vessels lined up in a massive wedge formation, preparing to charge. Their plan was simple: overwhelm the humans with firepower and end the battle quickly. On the other side of the red planet, hidden behind Mars's thin atmosphere and surface bases, the full force of Project Iron Veil waited. Commander Elias Ward stood calmly aboard the Obsidian Lance. Behind him, the bridge was lit with soft blue light. His officers were focused, silent, and ready. A map of the battlefield floated in front of him. Red marks showed the Varnock fleet pushing forward. Blue icons showed Earth's warships waiting just beyond detection range. "Time to let them see us," Elias said quietly. Phase 2 began. The human fleet decloaked all at once, 50 warships surrounding Mars like silent sentinels. The Varnock saw them too late. "New contacts surrounding us. There's too many." They were hiding behind the planet. Panic spread across the alien fleet. The humans didn't wait. The sky above Mars erupted. Graviton cannons bent space around Varnock cruisers, crushing their hulls with invisible pressure. Pulse disruptors fried enemy guidance systems. Torpedoes punched through thick armor like paper. Varnock ships tried to fire back, but human shields were stronger. Their tech couldn't match Earth's latest advancements. Every alien move was predicted, countered, and punished. Krell Zor watched his fleet fall apart. His officers were shouting, confused and scared. "They're inside our formations. We've lost contact with the flanks. Our rear guard is gone." He gritted his teeth. "Bring in the reserves. Focus on their flagship." 4 Varnock heavy destroyers charged toward the Obsidian Lance. Elias didn't move. "Let them come." The AI locked onto the incoming targets. The Lance's railguns spun up. In seconds, 2 destroyers were gone, shattered in space. The other 2 were disabled with EMP bursts. Elias gave a final order. "Push them back. No mercy." The humans advanced. The battlefield was now a storm of light and fire. Mars, once quiet, now watched a war that would be remembered across galaxies. Earth's fleet moved like a single machine, perfectly timed, perfectly trained. The Varnock had numbers. Earth had purpose, and that made all the difference. As the last of the Varnock ships fled toward deep space, limping and broken, Krell Zor shouted into the comms, "This isn't over." But even he knew the truth. The Empire had never lost a battle this badly, and it had never lost to humans. The galaxy would hear of this, and they would remember. Commander Elias Ward stood silently on the bridge, watching the last enemy ship disappear. "We've only just begun," he said. The battle near Mars had ended, but the war was far from over. The Varnock Empire had suffered a humiliating defeat, but they were not finished. Deep in space, High Marshal Krell Zor gathered his remaining ships. Reinforcements were on the way. Nearly 200 warships were heading toward Earth. This time, the Empire wasn't just sending a fleet. It was sending a message: total destruction. Krell Zor stood in the war room aboard Dominion's Wrath. A new scar ran across his jaw, a reminder of the defeat at Mars. His voice was filled with cold fury. "No more warnings, no more games. We burn their planet. We crush their spirit." His officers nodded in silence. They all felt the shame of their failure. Now they wanted revenge. Back on Earth, deep beneath the Arctic Circle, a massive chamber hummed with energy. This was Vault Zero, the heart of Earth's last and most dangerous secret, Project Revenant. It was not a fleet. It was a single ship, buried for decades, powered by dark matter cores, controlled by the most advanced AI ever built. Its name was Revenant. Commander Elias Ward stood in front of a massive control panel. Around him, warning lights blinked. Engineers worked quickly, unlocking systems that had never been touched. "Are we sure?" one technician asked. Revenant was never tested in full combat. Elias didn't blink. "We don't have time to test it. The Empire's bringing everything." He turned toward the launch tunnel. "Wake the Revenant." The ground shook as ancient clamps released. Metal groaned as the giant warship began to rise. Black and smooth like obsidian, the Revenant had no visible weapons. Everything was hidden beneath its armor. But it was the most dangerous thing Earth had ever built. The AI activated. Its voice echoed through the chamber. Deep, calm and precise. "Revenant online. Mission parameters accepted. Hostile fleet terminate." The ship launched silently into space. 2 days later, the Varnock reinforcement fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. It was massive. Rows of destroyers, cruisers and carriers. Krell Zor stood at the front, confident again. "This time there will be no surprises." But he was wrong. The Revenant struck first. It moved faster than any known ship. It used fold space jumps to appear in the middle of the Varnock formation. Before they could react, half a dozen ships were destroyed by invisible shockwaves. Varnock commanders shouted over the comms, "We're under attack. Where is it? We can't lock on. It's vanishing." The Revenant struck again, cutting through enemy lines like a ghost. Its weapons used energy. The Varnock didn't even understand. Whole squadrons disappeared in seconds. Panic took over. From the obsidian lance, Elias watched the battle unfold. He didn't speak for a moment. Then he gave the final order. "All ships advance. The Revenant leads. We follow." The human fleet surged forward, using the chaos to break through the Varnock ranks. For the first time in history, the Empire's forces began to flee before the battle was lost. Their commanders screamed for retreat. Krell Zor shouted in disbelief. "This isn't possible. This is not what they were." But it was. Earth had changed, and the galaxy was witnessing it live. As the Revenant destroyed the last Varnock carrier, a single message was sent from Earth to the galactic network. "We warned you. Never mistake silence for weakness." The stars watched in silence. The Varnock fleet was in full retreat. Their strongest warships had been shattered. Their command lines were broken. Their warriors, once proud and fearless, were now fleeing across the stars, chased by ships they once called primitive. At the heart of it all, the Revenant moved silently through space, like a shadow of vengeance. Its weapons were now quiet. Its hull was untouched. It didn't need to chase. It had already made its point. From the bridge of the obsidian lance, Commander Elias Ward watched the final pieces fall into place. His officers stood with him in silence. There was no celebration, only focus. "The last of the enemy fleet has crossed the system boundary," an officer reported. "Let them go," Elias replied. "They'll carry the story." On the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. Representatives of 100 worlds sat in silence. As reports came in, the same message echoed across every screen. The Varnock Empire was defeated by Earth. Many refused to believe it. Others trembled in silence. But one truth became clear. Humanity was no longer the weak link of the galaxy. They were something else now. A force that even the mighty could fear. Back on Earth, people stepped out of bunkers and shelters. The skies were clear. The war had never reached the surface, but the weight of it had passed over every mind and heart. News spread fast. Earth stands victorious. Families cried in relief. Children cheered in the streets. Soldiers hugged each other, knowing they had won not just a battle, but their future. Inside the war command, Elias sat at a quiet table. A screen showed footage of the Revenant returning to its orbital dock. The ship's AI sent a single message to him. "Mission complete. awaiting next purpose. Elias smiled slightly. Rest now, you've done enough. He looked around at his team. Tired. Worn but standing. Tired. Worn but standing. We held the line, he said softly. And now they'll never forget who we are. High Marshal Krelzor, once feared across galaxies, now stood alone in a cold prison chamber. Captured during the final clash, stripped of power, and left with only silence. His final words were bitter. We should have crushed them when we had the chance. But it was too late. Months later, the Galactic Council invited Earth to a summit. Elias walked into the Grand Hall, not as a beggar, but as an equal. Every eye watched him. Every voice quieted. He didn't speak of war or threats. He only said one thing. We never asked for power, but we earned our place. From now on, Earth stands. There were no objections. And so the story of Earth changed forever. No longer seen as weak, no longer dismissed or ignored. They were warriors, builders, survivors, and above all, human.